La Lanterna, a spotlight in Italian football, is a podcast that dives into the beautiful game seen from the eyes of two fans from the oldest team in Italy's point of view. My name is Fabrizio Cardone, Canadian and Genovese, together with my friend Matt Killen, an American-born and Genoa fan. Every week, we'll tell you all you need to know about the only team you need to know about, Genoa CFC. Plus, we'll have guests and provide updates from around the magical world of Italian football. Benvenuti and welcome to La Lanterna podcast with Fabrizio from Toronto and...
Ciao Fabry, it's your best bud Matt from New York City. How you doing?
I did miss my best buddy. I did miss that one. Sorry.
I put it in for you. I picked up what you normally say and added it to the other side so that now we're starting as normal again.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So we are here at episode 81 now.
Whoa,
we're
crazy. I'll never stop saying that, I don't think, by the way.
We are at match 23 and we had road trip to Empoli. So this was a match that was away.
Yes.
And it ended 0-0. So I guess let's start. So there's not much to say with respects to goals because it was a stalemate. But how did you see the match?
Well, it was, like you said, there wasn't an enormous amount of attacking chances, but it wasn't without drama, though. I think it's wrong to say there wasn't any sort of excitement at all, or it was like a total snooze fest. I kind of felt that earlier on in the match, we were under pressure a lot from them. There were some good chances they had. I can't remember the name of one of their players, but he managed to nutmeg one of ours and got a shot off, but it was kind of on the side netting and everything like that. And I came into this match a little bit more confident, I think, than you did, at least in my prediction. And I mean, Empoli looked a decent side. I don't think we walked all over them by any stretch of the imagination. We ended up pretty even if you look all the way down the statistics in terms of expected goals, total shots, possession. But I don't know, Fabry. I mean, did you have what were your initial reactions to this?
I have to say, I called the tie.
You did. I did not. I was pretty boastful.
Which is fine. I like that because that's positive. I'm not saying I was not positive, but I do like the fact of being always, positive with respects to hoping for the best. Why I'm saying this, not to toot my own horn, because I don't necessarily like nor thrive to do that, but I figured that so a lot of people are missing or like or love or always wanted Nicola to come back. Yes. I personally think he is a great coach, but similarly to Zio Ballardini, which I'm not talking bad about either, mind you, for the Genoani that are hardcore.
Well, since we're doing the back-to-back matches against Nicola and, of course, Zio Balla this weekend.
Exactly, that's true. But at the same time, what I wanted to say was these are both very similar with respects to their situation of when they are doing their best. So teams that are in relegation, they have lost their ways and identity. They come back, work on the locker room, come up and do their best to resurface. And they do almost, I would say, almost always the best. In fact, while Nicola is very well known on the piazza, on the Genoa side, he's definitely that great and one of the perfect, anyways, coaches to kind of do their best that they can do in order to come out of the relegation area and maybe look at what happened 2 years ago when we got relegated with Salernitana. He did miracles, whether that was true or not of the results, that nothing happened behind the scenes, and I'm leaving it at that. But it seemed unreal. But let's assume that it was all legit, and that's what I think he's also doing with Empoli. Meaning, let's not forget, besides the fact that it was on the road, so an away match, besides the fact that on the away match, we're known not to do as well as at home with our 12th man. This was a side that, with Nicola's hand, has won 3-0 at home against Monza and has kept a 1-1 with Juventus. Now, we can hate Juventus, we can talk so bad about them, but the truth is they're still in the second spot. So to be up there, they have to have that quality, and to have Empoli, which was second last, to tie against someone that is doing all that they can do in order to try to surpass Inter, I think that shows that there is something behind there.
Well, you were definitely leaning, I think, into that angle a lot with why the match could kind of be maybe more negative for us. But I think looking at a little bit how things kind of shook out, were you surprised at all with anyone, how he lined up in the starting 11? I think there were one or two changes from the previous match. What did you think about how we approached this one and how we started off?
We had Frendrup and Badel back. So
Yes.
essentially after the ban, they came back. So that gave us a little bit more interest in the center. However, going back to what I was saying before, Nicola has built perfection in his sense of defense. Like, he's great for defensive type of approach, not necessarily the best for attacking and so on. I'm not saying he can't, but also all depends on what the teams have at hand. And we know that except for a couple of players, the only one that can think to mind is Cambiaghi, and that's one of the ones that kind of created some issues for us anyways. They did an amazing job on the defense and at the midfield, to the point of, after the officiality of Malinowski being bought out from Olympique Marseille, he had probably one of his worst matches, but not because of necessarily him that he got into the match, but they blocked him to the point of missing certain verticalities. That was what Gilardino was trying to do. Mind you, again, Gilardino was also kind of looking at the match from the stands because he had a ban as well. And that's also one of the reasons why he got subbed at the beginning of the second half.
Yeah, I think it was definitely not a strong one for Malinowski. And that's one, exactly as you mentioned, he comes off at halftime. I think it was the right decision. It didn't seem to click for whatever reason. I'm not as worried about that. I think we maybe had a little bit of a change of formation too, with Ekuban coming in his place. But it just seemed like it wasn't really, I didn't have a feeling that we looked super sharp.
Going forward to what your question was, like, what did I feel about what happened in the match? I think we did the best match that we could do to face Empoli. Now, have we done the best thing to win it? Perhaps no. I think the mentality was not necessarily there, but there was a huge change from the first to the second half. We had a 3-5-2 in the first half. The second half, with Ekuban's entrance, it changed from a 3-5-2 to a 3. I'm trying to do math here. 3-4-1-2. So that gave a lot more example propositions and so on. But again, Nicola did this exact same tactician approach as well, where his changes, while we thought that Empoli would have eventually, because they had so much fast pace and so on the marking, Gudmundsson didn't even have a chance really to, oh wait, he's going to Fiorentina. Oh no, wait, he's not. No, jokes on the side. He's he couldn't even breathe because he was either doubled or tripled on the marking side. So he didn't even have a chance. He had a little bit more in the second half once Ekuban came in, because that gives a little bit less pressure on him to be up front, being right behind the two strikers, being Retegi and Ekuban. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the lines in the back from Empoli, also because of the changes done by Nicola, were always fresh, and always his changes were perfect for against us, if that makes sense.
No, I get what you're saying. They played the result, but I think also it's fair to say that, like, I don't know, I don't think that they were super negative in their approach to the match either, Empoli. I mean, the first half, if I'm not mistaken, there were a couple of different things happening. So I talked to briefly, I think the player's name was Male, I think you call him, one of their kind of attacking midfield players. He had that kind of good run that ended in a shot against the netting, and there were a couple of other chances of his that were happening in the first half. And if I'm not mistaken, we also had a near goal, but Sabelli was just a little bit unfortunate to be offside.
Gudmundsson with a corner, nice looking ball towards Retegi, and then Bade back, and then Sabelli, and Sabelli again! But the flag goes up. Confirmation then that Sabelli was offside. From
a corner kick. So it was, we've talked so many times about how well we've executed from the set pieces, and this one is tough. It was a rebound, and you just needed to get set back a little bit more. It was the right call, by the way, for it to be an offside call, but
unlucky.
And I think that it still was probably the right way of looking at that first half, where it didn't seem like there was a major difference in the two sides, but each side did have at least one decent chance at goal. So, but 0-0 at halftime.
In the second half, I think there was a difference, as I mentioned before, just because of the tactical approach that Gilardino had. He even mentioned in an interview that his view from the stands, from the tribuna, gave him a better understanding of certain things. The major chances, if I'm not mistaken, except the goal that was annulled, where I can think of, off the top of my head, I can think of 3. So all these are just to say to you, to everyone, that we shouldn't see, because I've heard a lot of malcontent, unhappiness about this tie. And I think based on what we said before and the chances that I'm about to describe are showing that no matter what, we had a great approach to the match. There's something to be thinking about the good direction. It's still the 8th consecutive positive result. So between ties and wins that has brought us to 29 points, not guaranteed safety to stay afloat in Serie A, but at the same time we're in the right direction. So the one that I can think of, there was a great header by Retegui that we were unlucky to have De Winter that was right in front of him that kind of blocked the header. Now, obviously, you hear comments saying, oh, that goal would have went in. That ball would have went in. Well, you don't know, really. But the truth is, it was unlucky to have De Winter's head right in front of it. So it blocked, essentially, the header from Retegui. After that, another one that I can think of, the most glam one, I suppose, was a shot from almost outside the box, almost like a Malinowski type of shot by Gudmundsson.
That one was, it looked like it was, it's kind of a half chance at the end of the match, but damn, that thing was close.
There is still time on the clock, though. Mr. Martinez, and it falls kindly here for Gudmundsson. Drags it just wide of the post.
I mean, I looked at it from different angles. I still have difficulties to be certain that it would have went in. With our luck, it would have went on the post, but you did see that with the nails, with the tip end of the fingers, the goalie, Caprile, has touched it. So something, whether it was a curling outwards or because the goalie touched it, unfortunately went just like not even inches, quarter of an inch outside of the post, and or centimeters or millimeters, as we say in metric, that didn't go in.
Yeah, it looked like it was a shot that was wide, but I think we ended up getting a corner from it because of that exact deflection, like you said. And so it ended up being like a saving reaction actually for Empoli, because we would have had, at that point we were pretty close into the end of the match. Unfortunately, we had something happen at the very, very end of the match that's not ideal. What did you think about De Winter's second foul? Did you feel like it was a little too harsh?
The second,
about right?
The second yellow, I think, was a little bit soft. Obviously, it happens. It can happen. It was definitely not one of the De Winter's best matches.
Pazzini goes beyond De Winter, and De Winter has already been booked, and De Winter will be given his marching orders here.
Yeah,
he will skip next match. But at the same time, what are you supposed to do with it? Sometimes it can happen. I'm not upset at the player, as many can have commented about getting angry at him and so on. But the truth is, it can happen. But even, it happens, period.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I think the thing looking at it, it did seem like a little soft to me too, but he kind of like wraps his arm around the player, and then the player goes down and he's already on a yellow, and it's close enough to call it a goal scoring opportunity. So I think like with those things together, like you make the ref make a decision and sometimes it doesn't go your way. I don't think you can really complain about the call, but obviously a bummer. We go down to 10 men, very dying stages of the match. Obviously we don't end up conceding and it still ends up 0-0, but it does mean we're out for at least one match with De Winter. I can't remember the rules if it's more than one or
it's official. It depends on the severity of the red card. It was 2 yellows, so that means it's not as severe. If it was a straight red, then they most likely they can call more than one match depending on what happens. I'll bring back memories on that bad Maignan, I can't remember against who it was, where he kind of was almost killing one of our players, and we were expecting to have more than one match day of ban, but they only gave him one. That's because it was a straight red. While if it's 2 yellows, 99% it's a 1 day. I can't remember. There was a third chance on goal. I can't remember off the top of my head. Jed Spence, he had an amazing shot on goal. That
was the one from the work from that. Yeah.
So that was the third one that I was referring to, and I couldn't remember, but that was an amazing. And if he had scored, it was his I don't know, everything, the quotas on the ideas, the everything was like, let's sign him right now. Let's get him on, right?
Yeah.
Still with Vitinha. Frendrup now. Martin takes a deflection on its way towards Spence and off the line by Luperto. Danger not over. Ekuban. And then Caprile makes the save. Was ready to wheel away and celebrate his first goal in Italian football. Sebastian Luperto, the Empoli skipper, had other ideas off the line.
Even though they were these three, it shows that there were chances, clear chances, while it was unlucky, while it was the importance. What I'm trying to get with this is that we had these chances. At the end, it was 4 on each side. There must have been a fourth one I can't think of, or maybe it was just like a Sorno goal that was not necessarily that great. But at the same time, it was, I think that 1 point on the road, it still is a good thing.
At the end of the day, like you said, when you look at the table, you look where we are, we're 11th spot. We're, level still with Monza on 29. We've got a better goal differential than they do. We're still within striking distance of 10th spot with Torino just 3 points ahead of us with the match in hand. And another match week goes by and, we're at the very least not getting any closer to the relegation places. There's going to be a battle right now. You've got from 15 through 20, there's a 6-point gap. We are 11 points clear of the 18th relegation spot and 10 points clear of that 15th place team, Sassuolo. So at the end of the day, I'm with you. I think as much as it's been fun seeing us take points from big sides and have big matches and everything else, like sometimes you just have to be happy with getting the result and getting closer to our goal.
Let me take advantage of that to use this about the standings and so on. We probably won't cover what happened on match day 23. There's still a whole bunch of matches that needs to be recuperated after the Supercoppa Italiana, the one that you call the Qatar, the Middle Eastern matches or whatnot. But we're sitting at 11th spot. And what I wanted to say with this was there was a great interview that happened with our CEO, Blasquez. It was a post-transfer market interview to understand. It's good because a lot of people are asking what's in their mind. Why did they do this, or why did the newspapers do that? So just to put certain things to square in place and so on, because rumors can become or appear to be news headlines, but they're not. So first, I'm not going to go necessarily in order. I'm just going off the top of my head of what I remember. But first of all, the Goodmanson thing never was a thing. It's so apparent. I have this. He might be also one of our guests when the Fiorentina match comes. He's a Fiorentino from Florence with his very thick accent. I love it, but he's in totally rightfully so. I mean, I'm not complaining against him, but understanding that this Pedula, which is an incredibly idiot journalist, that was one of the ones anyways that started this rumor about Goodmanson, or got this rumor from maybe Roman or maybe whatever, and then started to create all this coloring around it. Anyways, that about this Goodmanson, and our CEO essentially said he was never on the market. We never said that he was on the market. And in order to just entertain whomever was, we said, okay, we just started to shoot high. So we knew they were just going to back off. So what happened with Fiorentina was they put in an offer. They as in our club, politely responded, say, we're not interested, so don't pursue it. Fiorentina actually did it twice. So in my mind, it seemed a little bit ridiculous. Like, especially you can counter once, so you're at the second offer, but don't continue. Anyways, they did it 3 times. And they were like, the truth is they never answered back. So Genoa never officially answered back after the second, and definitely not after the third. So all these journalists are like making all these colors around. Goodmanson already agreed, and that's why it's all this stuff. Like, that's why even in our chat, you hear that I always say, I'm probably extremely going against it by saying don't trust anyone. But the truth is, don't trust anyone. And then I really liked how Zach, our friend Zach from a few episodes back from London, He says,
Yep.
until you see the player with the jersey in his hands, don't take it for a done deal.
Totally. Yeah, it was some funny memes going around last week about Goodmanson and him helping Fiorentina win the match after they were supposed to lose it and all these other like fake goals and things like that. But yeah, it seems like a lot of weird stuff being reported around the team, but it's obviously like we're not going to let this guy go right now for sure. And it seems like, because there were some comments that he made too, right? Am I making this up about being really connected with the fans and the color?
No, as you said, Goodmanson from the beginning, he has been superly intrigued and connected.
Yeah.
Mind you, could have been like a marketing type of thing and so on, but at the same time, he is interconnected with the city. He loves the city. Now, and I'm not saying this because I've heard someone that said he directly said that. And you're showing it and you're seeing it from pictures that he posts and also agreeing on certain, I would say, picture taking and whatnot around the city, in the pubs, in the clubs, in the bars with a cappuccino, with a focaccia. It's in the retro jerseys. You don't see other players do that, but why is he doing it, right?
Right.
Mind you, maybe him because he's like our jolly teddy bear, whatever you want to say, right? But he's definitely important to the city. Now, having said that, people are getting used to the idea of perhaps losing him in the summer. Let's deal with that in the summer. The truth is, because of this tax issue that we cut down our debt with the tax revenue agency, because of this, I think we said it once in a pod where our previous owner arrived to the depths of over 100, just a little bit over 100 million euro. Right. So there's a law in Italy where if you come down with an agreement, so there's nothing dirty, something that actually did Sampdoria as well, that you can cut down in 1/3 of what you owe, and you can pay that back in a 10-year installments. So that's what they did. It was legit. You present your plan, they agree upon it, but there's a caveat to that. Luckily so, it's only for 2 transfer windows. So that means this winter one and the next summer one, where you can never go in debt. Meaning whatever you sell for is whatever you can buy within that. Right. And you cannot go above that. You can't increase the capital. It has to be like black and white, essentially. Yeah. So in order to get something, so new players, you had to sell someone. And that's why they chose for Dragusin. These are words from the CEO, where he always had an innate desire to go to EPL. To be honest, he said Dragusin was not even ready to leave Genoa in the winter transfer market, in the January window. So we kind of found a middle ground, like where we needed to cash up on something in order to improve the team and so on. And at the same time, he had that desire to go to EPL. So, they found the right deal with the right team and so on. And that's what happened. Now, everybody thinking, oh my God, we got 25 plus 6, 31 million. That's all we have. And that we only did this. Mind you, think about first of all, it's 25 plus 6 with the bonuses. And the bonuses are not in yet, even though they were put like very easily reachable targets. But then you still have to, I'm still not certain about this percentage that goes to Juventus of the sell over the sell of Dragusin on top of the fees that goes to the agents. After selling Dragusin, that meant that we are able to open the market. We heard about the officiality of Malinowski and the soon-to-be Bani. So it's not an official one, but it seems like it's no big deal to do. Others that are on the horizon on the contracts that are about to expire are Ekuban, Badel, and Strootman. There is intention to pursue all 3 of them, so that's a good thing. Yep. Whether it's going to happen or not, I think it's going to happen more towards the end of the season itself. But these are just topics that people are on the tip of their tongue to talk about. So at the same time, what else do we know? Marcandali, he talked about Marcandali. He did say that he's going to join the squad next year. So that's incredible news. So for who doesn't know, he was a great player from the Primavera. He's a central defender, center back. I believe he might be able to do right back, left back. I'm not too sure, but definitely he's a center back. He's right now at Reggiana in Serie B, doing an amazing season, and it gives him just more exposure and more experience as well. And what else did he say? He talked about the fact of the Cittadini being a straight loan. People were saying, well, why? Apparently, Cittadini's contract as Etienne expires at the end of the season. So that means that he's going to be a free agent if nothing really happens. So that's actually maybe amazing for us if he turns out to be the investment that we want.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to deal with any kind of inflated contract. You can kind of deal with how the season goes and then approach it from there.
Correct. He talked about Spence, saying that they chased him back in the summer. We weren't able to reach out to him because the price tag was a little bit too high, but thanks to the Dragosin's deal, we managed to get him at least. And Gilardino has already expressed the liking of the player. So it seems like we are starting to work on the right to buy option that we have. Perhaps maybe lower it. I don't know, because it's set at 10 million right now. What else can I say about the Lecce? Not the Lecce match, but the Empoli match. We've seen a few minutes also of our Portuguese player. I can say it's only a few minutes, but at the same time, he showed freshness. It's on the mouth of a lot of people. Vitinha, I think, right?
That's right.
But I think that right now, up front, if you think about it, this is such an amazing thing, contrary to before what we had in the first half.
I know where you're going with this.
We had Retegui out, we had Messias out, and so on. Like now we have Retegui, national player of the Italian squad. Then we have Messias, an amazing player, which we know that we had to, and happily so, exercise the obligation to buy. And then we have Ekuban, which is everybody's desire, La Bella di Toriglia, if you remember the title. and now we have Vitinha and also Ekenyane. I can't remember now. I can't pronounce the name, but that newer player that comes from Moldova, which...
From Sheriff, I think we got him from.
Correct. And that'll take some time because last time he played was back in November. So he just needs to do a little bit of more training before he's able to manage to come in. And he is pure buyout, 2 million or something, 2.5. And he's a potential future great talent from an investment from possibly Spurs or Ottolini, anyways, to be our sports director.
It's a lot of activity, but I think, like you said, like there's a lot of these things. I can't speak too educated to many of them because, you know, like we said, we're not really watching the Moldovan league or anything like that. But like you look at us elevating players from the Primavera. I mean, these are the things that you need to see in the club. You know, if we're going to continue to be successful, we need to find ways of developing and not having to spend big money because we don't really have that money to spend. So, you know, it's a mixture of things, right? Like we're getting players on loan and hopefully being able to negotiate a friendly contract at the end of the season. We're bringing up players from the youth divisions. You know, it's great to see some of these guys going out on loan and, you know, Mark Andali coming up a lot in some of the conversations with how he's performed in Serie B so far. And it's just, I think it's really, really positive for Genoa.
It's extremely positive. Like we've never seen this. Obviously, a lot of people have, you know, started to look weirdly, comment bad, and already going back in the Mugugno type of approach where, again, we're seeing from the old previous owner, we're selling talents from in January transfer market, which is like boycotting our season and so on. Listen, since the sell of Dragosin, we've had 3-4 matches. We haven't lost since. Our defense hasn't changed since. I think we should put handcuffs to Bani and not make him leave.
No kidding. I'm with you on that one. I don't know, man. Anyways, it's good to see.
Last comment to close this topic on the transfer market. Blasquez, again, our CEO has admitted that there were 2 midfielders because that was the weakest, quote unquote weakest. So don't take it like in literal terms, but the weakest on the transfer market itself. We had eyes on 2 players Unfortunately, for technical reasons and or timing reasons, we didn't manage to close those. They're definitely focusing on having the closure, not necessarily on these two players. He didn't specify that, but to arrive to the summer market, transfer market, to make sure that we have the closure early on rather than arriving to the tail end of the transfer market and maybe have things go away. Also, because if you think about it, now January, while it's way too long, it's 1 month. But then in the summer transfer market, you have a whole 3 months of. And if you think about a future, trying to set up your team, and a lot of these players are also for the future as well, you want them earlier on rather than later on on the 1st of September without having proper training and in order to grab well with the team itself.
100%. I think like anything coming in January usually is a Band-Aid. Again, we had that one season a couple of years ago where we needed lots of Band-Aids. We needed more than Band-Aids. We needed a new arm and leg. And so we had a ton of transfers coming in. But like you said, it's always, you kind of just have to take these with a grain of salt. I think it's actually really encouraging how active we've been, because I wouldn't have expected us to be as aggressive as we have to start this whole thing. But I think we're trying to go about it the right way. You can tell what the club's trying to do. We're trying to make sure that we can position ourselves well going forward.
No, it's true. Like, if you think about it, we're used to a different type of approach. Definitely things have changed. We've also looked at the transfer market in a certain way where we were looking at Band-Aids, as you said. But correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no Band-Aids here. Obviously, it looks remove the obviously. It looks 100% of an investment from a major player to look for the future.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it looks like.
And even if a couple players are straight loans and or with a right to buy, so straight loan would be Cittadini defender. Then you have Spence as an option to buy. You have Vitinha, an option to buy with a very high price mark. I'm not saying that'll ever happen, but you never know how you can negotiate with it. Look at what happened with Malinowski, right?
Right.
But at the same time, you might not get Vitinha, maybe get someone else thanks to the reevaluation of it. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. It's 100% guesswork. But what I'm trying to say with this is, are we aiming for the 11th spot, or actually the original target was safe staying in Serie A? Are we still looking at that? Maybe not, maybe more. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, that's the end goal. With the players that arrived, it looks like we're aiming for a little bit more, which a little bit more does not mean a Europe spot.
Well, I mean, like you said, at the very least, we're looking to strengthen. We're trying to find ways to continue to build. And like you mentioned, Vitinha came on a bit this last match against Empoli, and almost instantly we had this great build-up play, and we were a little bit unlucky, but it was very, very positive from the club. I think this maybe was the one chance you were thinking of that you couldn't remember. But when you have more talent like that, more attacking talent, more creativity, it usually, maybe you have defensive weaknesses because of that, but it can bode really well. And I think you're right to say that, like, we're probably looking towards not necessarily like long-term per se, but like we're making these decisions so that we are going to have a better pathway come the summertime and beyond. So it's exciting. I think hopefully we'll see a decent amount of these guys actually active in game before too long.
I'm sure we're going to have to continue to see, at least definitely for the next transfer market, because remember again that deal I talked to you about earlier about this tax thing and so on, that we'll have to bank before we do any purchase, and this will be technically the last transfer market. But at the same time, we'll see what happens. People are saying it's going to be 100% Goodmanson, but you don't know. There's also other players that are looking at extending their contract, which is Vasquez and Frendrup. So that's also, again, rumors. You don't know. Seems like if it happens, it's only good for us, because that's also showing that the club is looking for the future. But I guess after the transfer market, the last thing I only wanted to quickly mention was the fact of we are going to be facing Mr. Gasperini.
That's right.
A lot of widows out there still in love with Mr. Gasperini. There's no doubt that he is not only dearly loved by Genoani in general, but also perhaps one of the best regardless of him winning or not. Something, one of the best tacticians and coaches in the Italian scene right now.
It's always going to be tough. It's amazing when you think about Atalanta and how much he's revitalized that club. Because I think before then, and obviously we've traded this with them a handful of times in Serie B, like going up, going down, having a good season, getting dropped back down again, like that type of thing was something that you were more familiar, Atalanta, as that type of a club. And now they're regularly challenging are they going to be the last Champions League spot? Are they going to go to the Europa League? And, you see these players that he moves on and is able to market and build so well. It's always a little hard when you see him doing that and he's no longer with us. But regardless, it's a challenge. And it's I think it'll be a good test for us as we kind of really try to continue to establish our position and identify that safeness. I mean, imagine 24 matches gone and we're already at 32 points. That's a potential reality. I don't want to count our chickens too early because I think it's going to be a difficult match, but still.
I don't want to either. But before we going, I guess, into the match and talking about predictions, I want to say that the next streak, so we've looked at the last three matches where we got, which is still amazing. Out of the last three matches, Salernitana, Empoli, and I can't remember now, Verona, was it? Maybe. Anyways, we got 7 points. So still amazing track record and so on. But the streak of the next 6 matches are something to be, I guess, good that we banked the points so far, because I don't know. I'm not saying we can't, because we have shown that we can face a lot. But the next matches in order are Atalanta, home, Napoli, away, Udinese, home, Inter, away, Monza, home, Juventus, away.
Not an easy stretch.
No, I guess that's the thing about Serie A, right? Nothing is easy because you get the team. This year, did you see that? Like, quickly, small conversation, very, very small, about the Serie A. Like, have you seen ever that the last spot, in this case it's Salernitana, after 23 matches, already at 13 points, mind you, they are the lowest of the 3-pack. We talked about already last episode about the group that we have, which is a very strong, like long group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams, basically at the same level of points, 18 to 19, Sassuolo, Udinese, Verona, Cagliari, Empoli.
Mm-hmm.
If we assume Salernitana to go down, that means 5 teams fighting for not to get into these 2 spots.
That's right. Well, I think you almost extend it. Yeah, 5 teams for sure. And you never know, like, we need to continue to perform, because we're not at a completely kind of clear distance at the moment. But, maybe if things don't go Lecce's way or Frosinone's way, you have a couple more teams entering into that race. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing about the campaign, is that it's strange, because we have these kind of like groups in the table that are really, really competitive. And then there's pretty big gaps between some of those groups. But it's a dogfight there. And you're going to see, I think, a lot of those teams really play with as much intensity as they can, because they all know how important it is to win every single match. And there's not a team in there that can be, they can rest and not worry about where their position is going to be.
It looks like the more you have teams closer in points, and the lower the points are needed to survive Serie A.
I mean, usually that's how it goes, because naturally speaking, if the season ended today, you would have 6 teams that are separated by a point, and 4 of those 6 teams will stay afloat, where in some cases, like, those teams are level on points and it's really just a goal differential thing. I mean, I think the one thing also that's kind of interesting about all this is that it's going to need to be more than goal differential for Cagliari and Empoli right now, because they're both at like negative 21 goal differential. And I know that I think there's some head-to-head stuff that factors in too in Serie A, but
I think that's the second call.
It's the second one. I thought so too. But it'll be a wild end. And to your point, like, we kind of had this period. We've been in a good way. We've not actually lost in 8 matches, which is amazing. But it's another set of matches that we need to get points from. Atalanta is a difficult one. How do you think we're going to approach the match?
So let's go into predictions, as you said. So I'll start first, I guess, at this point. But again, Gasperini has shown that against his former pupils, look at the first leg, that he most of the times wins or, excels better compared to them. However, having said that, there are some key players that either are injured. I don't necessarily have an updated map of a list of the proper players, but I think Ederson is out, Lookman is out, and then we have some important injuries. Like
I'm not sure if Lookman will be out, but Koopmeiners is definitely out.
Koopmeiners is out because of injury, so that's something actually sort of new that everybody on the Genoa side was raving for the fact of not being in, and from our side we only have De Winter, and it looks like, I can't promise anything, and we shouldn't even worry too much because now there's a little bit of a comfortable abundance. It seems like Junior Messias might be at least called up, not necessarily played, but at least called up. Which is good, absolutely. So it's an important match. The difference, while they won 2-0 in the first leg, I remember I was downtown, Toronto. I watched it with Jake from the Genoa Club Toronto, and we had Pietro, which is from, I don't think they have a Genoa Club Chicago, but definitely he's in Chicago. And he was in Toronto for some personal matters and so on. And at the end, it finished 2-0, and it felt like we played bad, but it wasn't a bad match. It was two goals from an amazing play that Atalanta, Gasperini are used to show us. And at Bergamo, that's essentially what happened. Right. At that time, we were still looking for an identity, and we still didn't have the strong team, in my opinion, that we have today. This time around, it's a little bit different. There's a lot more cohesion and a lot more team power. We've talked about that, at least in a few matches now, where you see this amazing tight, I guess, the players. Remember about Martinez that was celebrating more Ekuban's goal rather than his save on that penalty. Mm-hmm. So the team has built up to the point of they're starting to have been playing for a few months, years together. You see a lot more. Sabelli has become, from the sub that we were used to think about him in Serie B, he's like a prime player now for Serie A, and well-deservedly so. And I'm quoting him just to say even Ekuban himself and a lot of teams are actually searching for him.
Yeah.
Like, to the surprise of many. I don't know. I think right now Atalanta is going to have it a little bit more tough than what they think they might have had. It's difficult to play against Genoa right now. We're playing at home. We have the 12th man. I think we're edging between a tie and a win. And this time around, if I said a tie in the first for last match, I think this time around we might edge a 1-0.
I could see that, to be honest with you. I also, again, feel pretty optimistic about this one. And I think, you're right. I remember the last match. It was kind of unspectacular on our side. But, like, when you dig deeper and remember some of the details, maybe it makes you feel a bit more confident. And obviously we've had moments since and before then where, there's reason to also have that confidence. I think you look at, if I'm not mistaken, this was the match where, I don't know if Martinez was suspended from a red card or something else. We actually had Leali in goal. We had a couple of things going on. Retegui was hurt. He did not appear in the match. We had our substitutes, Galdames and Puskás, were the first two guys off the bench. In this one, Gilardino gets a yellow card, kind of a chippy match altogether. We had kind of a different midfield than normal with Torsby and Frendrup next to Malinovsky. So, like, the complexion of this team is a little different than when we faced them the last go-around. And I think that there is definitely a chance for us to find the way. I mean, having Retegui in the lineup with Ekuban either coming off the bench or being another player there. Goodmanson obviously offering what he has. We saw some interesting stuff from Vitinha. We talked a little bit about Malinovsky, but he's had a good campaign. And I don't think the way he played the last match is how you would normally expect to play. In fact, maybe he's more motivated by that. And I just think that we have some opportunity to try to figure out how we can break down Atalanta. I still think we're going to be trying to do so on the counter. So it'll be interesting to see how Gilardino and how we're going to end up responding really to Gasp and what he's going to do. But I also think that we'll be on the positive end of the result with this one. I tend to think similarly. 1-0. I could see us scoring 2 goals, but I think it might look more like a 1-0 result. And, I think for me, I still kind of am thinking of how we've been playing the last several matches and the way that we've been working out our opportunities. But I'm still curious, is this going to be the first one where we see Jed Spence making his mark and having a stamp on the match? Are we going to see any of the other players who've come on briefly for us in more prominent roles? I'm not sure quite that this is the match for that. There's a lot of reason, I think, to think that we can get something from it, especially it being at home. So, yeah, I similarly feel pretty optimistic about this one.
I didn't mention who I think who was going to score. I think it's going to be a fortune type of thing of goal, but at the same time, a well thought through team approach, tactical build up, and it could be technically on the paper could be anyone. But honestly, I think that Retegui is overdue based on the fact that he didn't play necessarily amazingly. I think he played very well. Definitely he was impacted by the fact that Spalletti was also on the stands watching him. But he definitely can have that opportunity. So I think if it's a 1-0, it'll be by Retegui. How about you?
I would vote for... I think it may be a spectacular Goodmanson effort. I think is what we're going to see.
He is the highest impact player for any team in Serie A with the most percentage of goal per team.
Well, there you go. The numbers are on my side.
Absolutely, they are. All right, so we are at a wrap. I think that please do comment all our posts and or likes, comments, and you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And never forget, always and forever, Forza Genoa. You've listened to La Lanterna, a spotlight on Italian football, a podcast powered by Genoani Si Resta. Thank you for listening and see you next week.